Welcome back to day 3 of the summer series, and it is certainly feeling very summery here in the south of England, where I am here in the UK today. I hope it's feeling summery for you wherever you are in the world. I'm Ruth Dance. I'm from Inspiring Workplaces, and I am one of the hosts of the summer series. It's my first time hosting for you today, and I'm really, really delighted. We've had 2 great speakers so far. So we've had Paul Zak over in the United States talking about the neuroscience of trust, and then we also had Marcus Guinness from Sweden talking about productivity. And today's topic, super topical, as are most of our topics, is all about hybrid working, how to do it, how to embrace it, but really why it is the new backdrop for employee experience. Sharing her insight, her knowledge and her guidance for us all today is Hattie Roche, who is the co-managing director and strategy chief at Home. Home are based in Bristol and here in the UK, actually. You may have heard me talk about Home before. They, together with us, conducted the 2021 Roundel Research Report, which was all about the global employee experience trends. If you attended any of the workshops that we ran, the collaborative workshops of our Inspire community, you would have heard me quote this research extensively and as a backup for what is going on right now and the things that we're tackling. Anyway, enough from me. Let's introduce Hattie. Are you there?
I am. Hi, Ruth. Hi.
Hi, Hattie. Nice to see you. It's also looking very summery where you are. I know we're in the same country, but it is looking very summery. Welcome to the summer series. How are you?
Thank you. Thanks for having me. No, I'm good. I'm good. I, as you can see, have an office backdrop, which personally I'm delighted with at the moment. It's nice not to be sat at my sofa and things. So no, I'm good. Thank you.
Well, that's nice and topical for your session for today. I'm really intrigued to hear about this. It's definitely a question we're being asked a lot about. And you're going to share some slides with us today as well, aren't you? So
yeah, should I bring those up now?
You bring those up. I will get off the stage and let you take over the stage, and I'll be back when you're finished to ask questions and share insights. So, are you all right, Hattie? I'll hand over to you. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Ruth.
Okay.
Let me know if you can see my screen okay. Is that all working?
I'm sure the team are just doing that in the background. We can't see the screen yet. We can't see it yet, Hattie.
Oh. I am sharing. Shall I try again?
Yeah, we did just test this, everyone. So
I know.
It's always the way.
Who does it? Okay.
No, it's always the way. You keep.
How about now?
Yes. Yeah. Look, there we are.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we might have some things down, but obviously screen sharing is not one of my skill strengths. So apologies for that. Hopefully the talk will be better than my screen sharing. Anyway, thank you, Ruth. Thank you for the intro. Obviously from Home, we've already talked about that. And, you know, one of the things that I wanted to open with is what I'm not going to talk about. And this word, this phrase, we have all seen it over and over and over again. And, you know, I do appreciate the sentiment of the phrase of the new normal, but I also think it has become a little bit unfortunate. It's become a buzz phrase. And in a way, I think it detracts from the realization that this situation isn't normal. None of this has been normal. And, you know, that goes from the super quick onset of hybrid work to, you know, everything that happened in 2020. It isn't normal, but it is happening. And I think, you know, when I talk about hybrid work, we are seeing it as an incredible opportunity that we all have collectively to change the face of work, you know, and how that shows up for us. Now, this news article, I'm sure lots of people recognize. It's nearly a month old now, and you know, I'm really confident that that million number has grown substantially. It's growing all the time, and that's how fast things are changing at the moment. That's how fast organizations are needing to stay agile and keep up. And I think, you know, organizations are adapting to not only our context, but also more importantly to the expectations of their people, and that is different now. And I think we've all learned that work can be different, that our balance can be different. And honestly, you know, we haven't got that completely right yet. We still haven't reached normal. We're still working that out. And, you know, I think that is a good thing. So This is a big one. And, as with everything else in life, others will follow. The majority of those big organizations are looking at hybrid. They're not looking at fully remote. They're not looking at fully back to the office. They're not looking at going back to where we were before, thankfully. We're not giving up the increased flexibility that we've seen. And, whilst people like me haven't necessarily enjoyed working at home, what I have enjoyed is choice. What I have enjoyed is working with businesses and being able to help people make their lives work around work. And I don't want to lose that. And it's great to see that we're not. So looking at some examples, and I'm not going to talk about Goldman Sachs, just have a look at that in comparison to nationwide. And I think right now, a lot of us are trying to put guidelines around hybrid work. Well, I completely understand that, of course. But, I do wonder how sustainable stringent guidelines will be over time. And, I sort of hope that we see a move towards increased trust, empowerment and ownership for teams and individuals to be able to make this work in the way that they need, rather than sticking to this, you have to be in the office for a Monday, a Wednesday and a Friday, instead of, taking intelligent decisions around what's going to work for the individual and the team that week. So I suppose the point is hybrid work is happening. We can't do anything about that. We don't want to. We should want to try and embrace it. It is our backdrop. It's also a very movable backdrop. So how do we, the question is, as employee experience professionals, work with that? And, this sort of fun-looking slide is just trying to say we need to get our mindset to the right place. And yes, all of our plans have changed. Our strategies pretty much went out the window in 2020. But right now, we've got a huge opportunity to see our hybrid work backdrop, not as a disruption, but actually as the next big disruptor. And, perhaps we don't want to hold it off. And, you think back to any of the big business disruptions in the market that you've seen. As an example, I personally was a pretty late adopter to Netflix. I don't really know why. It wasn't something that I sort of concentrated on. And now I hate to admit, but I barely watch television apart from Line of Duty. But you see the point that I'm trying to make. And perhaps we are not here to the absolute pure joy of, Phoebe at the moment. And, we're all knee deep in hybrid plans. We're redeveloping employee experience and our journey touch points. We're ripping up the rule book once again. But also let's remember how long we talked about increased flexibility for people, about making our lives work. So no, we probably don't have it right just yet, but let's embrace the opportunity that we have to keep trying. And as Ruth said in her intro, we do a piece of annual research into employee experience. That research is into trends and practices called Roundel. In 2020, and it was the end of 2020, we spoke to 634 global professionals. Those professionals were from organizations big and small. And we launched the research in January this year. So if you think about the sort of timing of that, in 2020, 8 out of 10 of those organizations are saying that flexibility hasn't hurt their business. And there's more than that. So, incredibly, many organizations saw that remote working had a positive impact on the 6 key performance indicators that we looked at. So we looked at productivity, we looked at collaboration, innovation, empowerment, engagement, and culture. And we're showing 4 of those on this slide here. And those businesses that did offer increased flexibility about when, where, and how work gets done did see a bigger uptick across 5 out of those 6 measures compared to those who didn't. And it's interesting to see that the only performance measure that increased flexibility had a negative impact on was collaboration. So, there's some work that we can do here. And interestingly, 2 minutes before I went on this call to do this talk, I was looking at BBC News, and Apple have just come out and said that by September, all of their people are going to be back in the office at least 3 days a week, I think. And that was cited because of collaboration needs. So it's definitely a space that we want to focus on now. So I suppose the question that we have now is, where do we go from here? And yes, hybrid is our backdrop. It's our very moving, happy backdrop. But, how can we continue to build meaningful employee experiences that embrace that backdrop? So culture mapping, and what do I mean by hybrid culture mapping? This is the employee experience and culture map that we use at home. And when we think about designing employee experiences, we want to design them to have a positive impact. That completely goes without saying. We want to design and deliver experiences that build a healthy organizational culture. And this is how we think about that. And when we think about building and maintaining a healthy culture, we want to deliver experiences that have purpose and give purpose. And by that, I don't mean a statement, a purpose statement that lives on the wall. I mean about having a unifying sense that you're part of something bigger than yourself, a part of a unifying story. People want to have a vision. They want to know that their work is going towards something. They want a clear line of sight. They want to know that there's personal growth. Listening, people want to feel listened to. Of course, we all want to feel listened to. We don't want to feel listened to on a survey that happens once a year and nobody looks at again, and the voices aren't sort of, or I guess, things aren't acted on. We want to genuinely feel listened to, heard, and our opinions valued. And then leaders that are coaches, and again, I don't mean coaching in the traditional sense. I mean, actually, how can we equip our leadership to make sure that they are empowering their teams, that they're giving autonomy in the right way, that we're, having this growth mindset, that we can always see the possibilities. Well-being, I don't need to go into detail in that one, but, now more than ever, well-being is a really core part of a healthy culture. People expect it as part of their employee experience. And then collaborative innovation. And by that, I mean creativity. I mean, being able to look around you and think differently, being able to spot things that aren't working properly, and then having the empowerment and the voice to say, I think I could do this better. I think I've got a good idea on this. So we use this map when we're designing employee experiences, when we're working with businesses to say, what could we be doing better right now? What could have a really positive impact on your people? And interestingly, this map doesn't get different. When we're looking at hybrid culture or hybrid employee experience, these factors are still the same. They don't change. And a healthy culture and a thriving employee experience can breathe anywhere. And I suppose so right now, when we're working with our clients, we're asking ourselves, what is working, and map out where we can make the best or the most positive impact with our hybrid backdrop. So there's some simple questions that we can ask ourselves to sort of form this map. And, yes, I'm simplifying this, and there's lots of strategy and planning that sits behind. But if you're going to start somewhere with thinking about hybrid work is happening, we know we need to make this work for our people. Actually, how can we make sure that our employee experience is still a strong one? I would ask yourselves these questions. So, wherever people are working, do they still feel together in it? Do they still feel part of something bigger? Are people excited for the future? Are we looking forward? Are people clear on where their effort is going? And if we're really honest with ourselves, we know that there's a lot of effort right now. So, is that effort working towards something? And are we still talking to our people wherever they are? Are we, more importantly, listening to our people? And it's so easy, I think, to not do the focus groups because we can't get people in the meeting room. But actually, if somebody's at home, are we still taking the time to make sure that they are part of that conversation? And then, are we supporting our leaders to lead in this new context? I think this is a really, really important one, because line managers, they're going to be both a challenge and opportunity for us for the rest of time, I'm sure. It's such a difficult role that they have. We expect so much, a full-time role, plus line management responsibilities. And actually, I think we can all safely say that, are we really equipping people to do that job with a hybrid team? Because that is a different ask. Your people are not necessarily all in front of you now. You need to continue to engage a team that might be partially in the office, partially at home, probably not very often all together in the same room either. And then this is a huge one. Is well-being a priority right now? And if it isn't, I think we can safely say it absolutely should be. And then finally, have we remembered that innovation doesn't stop, ideas don't stop just because we're working in a different way? We don't have to, stop having creativity sessions or brainstorms. And increased flexibility, as we saw before, has had a slightly more negative impact on collaboration. So there's definitely more that we can do here to involve people in coming up with ideas, in problem solving, in innovating across everyday challenges, wherever it is that they're working, because we're missing that, we're lacking that. And actually any efforts that we can go to equip that, to facilitate that process as professionals, I think is important. So here's the trick, we've called it here, but actually it's pretty straightforward. Once you've mapped that out and answered those questions for yourselves, this is the one that I ask organizations, is what would have the most or the biggest positive impact on your employee experience right now? And the answer to that is going to be different in every organization. I know there isn't a straightforward one, and everybody has their own challenges, but equally I knew that wouldn't be incredibly helpful. So, we've also thought through, if you are going to do just one big thing, if you're thinking about, where could I have a showcase project this year? How could I really make an impact, a positive impact on people? Then this would be it for me. And actually, this is a very simple sentence. It is much more difficult in real life, of course, but take the opportunity, wherever you land on that map, whatever your plans are to facilitate, healthy cultures, healthy hybrid working and great employee experiences, take the opportunity to inject positive energy. The reason that I think and see that that's so important, with the global businesses that we're working with, just look at this stat from Roundel. And of course, this is, again, straight out of the back of 2020, which was incredibly traumatic in many, many ways. But 80% of respondents are saying that the massive events of 2020 negatively impacted employee mental health. Of course, it's unsurprising. So we are coming off the back of an incredibly hard time. And during periods of stress, for any of us at work or in our personal lives, it is difficult to focus on our well-being. It's difficult, I think, to find positive energy sometimes. And certainly, and this is an example, obviously, from a personal perspective, I do tend to sweat the small stuff. And by that, this is a bit of a humorous slide, but by that, I mean, there's this backdrop of there's an incredibly challenging backdrop, let's put it that way. And that makes us worry about all the small things that are happening in our day. And that's completely normal. That's just what our brains do. That's how we're wired. And whilst this slide is a little in jest, and I wish my biggest worry in life was how I'm going to fit in the gym and watch Netflix in the same evening, I wish that was the case. But we all have worries and stresses that in many ways have been amplified by the events of the last year and where we are in our context now. So, that's why I think injecting positive energies, taking it upon ourselves as EX professionals to be able to do that, to be able to provide a positive experience for people. And by that, I mean, remember when you were a child and you looked forward to Christmas. And of course, that's not the same for everybody, but certainly for me, this is something that I felt really excited by. I wish I was doing this now. That's not really where I am, but certainly a feeling that I long for. Again, when I look forward to going out for dinner in the evening, and these are silly examples really, and I'm oversimplifying, but we know when the everyday is new, tough, stressful, different, it's actually a really healthy thing to unite around something that's positive in the future. That is an incredibly powerful force in our lives. And that can work for employee experience too. That's, I think, the experience we can give people right now. So I think we can truly think about our teams as being a force for good. We can help people navigate a changing time, a difficult time. And it's that realization that's important. Let's not get bogged down in all the detail of all the things that we need to do, but we have this new and potentially incredibly positive backdrop of hybrid work, which is great. So how can we design employee experiences that genuinely really are a force for good? And Just super quickly, I'm just going to remind us of the culture map and thinking about the 6 touch points on it and where you might want to amplify and provide positive employee experiences. I'm just going to run through 6 super quick tactical ways that you could inject positive energy across any one of those touch points. So it's going to be super speedy. Purpose. And I'm going to remind us that purpose is not about the statement here. We're talking about this unifying sense of story. What you can see on screen, BNP Paribas Leasing Solutions, they use their EVP statement, it's a people thing, to inject positive energy around getting the balance right for their people. So you can see the campaign, it was called Our Happy Balance. I mean, the process was both inclusive and interactive and allowed their people to have a voice in how they're working and actually feel that, oh, the business cares about me. I'm in this with them. We're going to do this and work this out together. This is giving me a positive future to look forward to. And, for vision, I'm going to show you a really quick film and it's by Northwell Health, an organization that we've worked with in the US for a long time. And it's part of a much larger strategic project to support team members to heal. And the team have done an incredible job. They've provided emotional, financial, mental health, well-being support to their people, to their team members. And as part of that phase project, they wanted to inject some positive energy to help their people start to look forward together, to realize that actually there is a positive future ahead that they can all own despite a pretty unspeakably hard year.
We became our best in the worst of times. We know our words will never be enough to thank you.
Everybody comes out and cheers for us at 7 o'clock, and it's just amazing.
When we're challenged, we stand together. When we feel doubt, we raise each other. We never give up. But now, this is our time to heal. Our gaze is set firmly on tomorrow. And tomorrow, we get back the moments we've been missing. Tomorrow, we realize our dreams for the future of healthcare. Tomorrow is ours. We're health raisers. Togetherness is our strength. Unity is our unbreakable bond. And that bond will last a lifetime. We're made for anything. And we are made for this.
So obviously a super powerful film. And for listening, this is a super quick example, and I wanted to show it because I think that employee listening can be sometimes viewed as something that uncovers problems and issues and should be avoided in times of stress. But actually, simply involving and listening to people can be the positive injection of energy that you need. And if you look at the 3 parts, and obviously you don't need to take in all of the detail, you don't need to look at it, but just look at the 3 headings for this potential workshop format. Part 1, how can we learn? What do we want to take forward from what we've experienced together? Part 2, our vision for the future. How can we own this? What do we imagine together for the future? And then part 3, how do we put that into practice? And, even these small tweaks to your everyday employee experience activities, whether that be running a workshop, doing a survey, doing a huge campaign, whatever it is, if you think about that from a mindset perspective, how do you make sure that people actually find energy from this? They know that this is a forward-looking, they are supported to be involved and to be in it. So for leadership, again, super straightforward. How do we take a normal and otherwise everyday team meeting and then actually think about injecting positive energy into that normal everyday team meeting? So, let's equip leaders and line managers with tools to help their teams think differently, to collaborate again. And, we know that creativity and collaboration is a simple way of injecting that energy. It's a really good thing for your well-being. And then again, quickly on, the Northwell campaign again, I don't even want to call it a campaign, because actually this was an incredibly thought through, phased strategy that include, a stress first aid centre, a series of tranquility tents were rolled out at hospital sites so that teams could take a moment of peace, financial support given to team members who've had difficult times because of the pandemic. But actually you can see that the wrapper for this campaign shows how much the team cares about injecting positive energy to support their plans. And then finally, collaborative innovation, a super simple one again. And, I wanted to give simple examples of things that you might already be doing anyway, to see how easy it is to sort of shift the gear, shift the mindset to be able to inject this energy. So this is a few slides from a team session for the Cisco employee communications team. The team is still working 100% remotely, and they wanted to make sure they were spending the time to come together, to collaborate, and to dream big about their future plans. And this was an amazing session, full of energy. And I think just taking a moment to make sure that we are collaborating, we are still having our creativity, regardless of where the team is sitting, regardless of whether everyone is together in the room, we can still make this work. So I suppose to finish and to close off, when you look at your employee experience plans, think about what will have the most positive impact on your people. What will give a positive experience for them at work. And I truly believe that it's in our power to be able to do that.
Thank you. I really enjoyed listening to that. And thank you so much. You shared so many questions and resources for people so generously, and we're having Fiona's just said that's great. And the Northwell heat health film is such a tearjerker. I wasn't ready. You should definitely put a disclaimer next time, Fiona. I'm sorry, Hattie, for Fiona.
Could say that.
So Hattie, I was listening and I was like, okay, but where would I start with this? And then you told us where we start. And then I was like, okay, so what one thing should I do differently? And then you told us what one thing I should do differently. It's like, okay, now I want to hear from you, like, what are other organizations doing? Like, I love learning. And then you did that. So I was trying to come up with questions to ask you, and you were just answering them. And I'm sure that was the same for many other people that are listening right now. One thing that really stood out when it came up in your employee experience map and the questions that we're asking ourselves is a subject around well-being. And the reason I want to have a brief chat about the subject of well-being is it's becoming a really, I mean, everything's a hot topic right now, but it's definitely become one of the biggest, broadest, and most challenging subjects for people, I feel like, from my conversations. And really, is it harder or is it easier to tackle in a hybrid organization? And the last year has maybe made that even harder for us. Do you have any tips or guidance for people listening on that subject?
So harder is an interesting phrase, isn't it? Because in some ways, yes. And by that, I don't mean that it's harder to look after people in a hybrid sense, but actually, I think because of what everybody has collectively been through, harder because we need to do more. We need to go further. We need to take our existing well-being strategies and take them up a notch, not just because of hybrid working, but because of the collective global experience of everything that's happened. But even if we take our hybrid, backdrop for today, we weren't working with that a year ago, 18 months ago. Well-being strategies traditionally were, designed based on the work model, the employment model that business had at the time. And of course, everything has changed now. So I think for well-being, especially if we thought about only doing, one of those 6 parts of that culture framework, that would be where I started. And yes, I said that was different for everyone. But, if all organizations made well-being a priority, I am absolutely sure that would have a positive impact on their people. Because I think right now we could simplify it and say people want to know that they are going to be supported in the future by their organization, whatever that looks like. It needs to be a case of thank you for you the work that you've done. Thank you for the effort that you've put in. This is what's available to you now. This is what's in front of you to support your well-being. And for me personally, that needs to go further than we traditionally have gone.
So it does, and it needs to go deeper, not just because of the last year, but because we're covering different environment now. Yeah. I'm also really interested, this kind of subject of hybrid working, way before the pandemic, it was heading in that direction, through people's personal choice, through how people work, through the way the world was operating. This is more of a comment rather than a question, is that in fact the pandemic that has shifted us or forced us to think and strategize around hybrid working can only be a good thing, right? Rather than it just organically happening and laziness and accidents happening along the way, like being conscious about it.
I mean, you imagine how much effort people were already putting into giving more flexibility to their people. We're talking years, maybe decades of work and change to make that happen. That was completely on fast forward. Hybrid work is happening now, and that's why I talk about it as a backdrop, because that backdrop is going to continue to shift and shift and shift and shift. And, you know, whilst lots of organizations are putting so much effort into what are the rules around it, what's the guidance for people, and I appreciate guidance, I think we have to be open to that guidance moving, along with our changing backdrop that we're going to continue to learn from. Because, I don't know whether, you heard me say about Apple. I haven't had time to read that article properly yet, but I will be doing that now. They have suffered from collaboration or a lack of collaboration. They want that back. They want their people in the office at least 3 days a week. Now, I find that really interesting because, shouldn't we instead be saying, how do we have collaboration at home? How do we have collaboration where people work at their best? How do we trust people enough to know that they can still be creative, to know that we're going to equip them with the tools that they need to work in the way that they want to, in the way that they feel most well? Collaboration can still happen.
And for you already said you much prefer being around people and being in an office environment. And that may be where you are at your best.
Yes.
But not the same for everyone else. Yeah.
No, it's not the same. And, so many people, the team at home will say, I do my report writing so much better at home. I can sit down, I can super concentrate. It's really deep work. We think about doing this sort of deep, detailed work at home. I am a disaster zone at home. I will go to the fridge 18 times an hour. I will look at my flowers in the garden. My concentration just is fueled by having humans around me. And that needs to be okay, just like it needs to be okay that many of the team here would prefer to be at home to do that sort of work. And, for us here, that always will be okay. And I think eventually that's hopefully what we'll see is trust and autonomy so that people can make the decisions that best suit them, and the business, of course.
But as you've so wonderfully helped us do today, with a really strong employee experience mapped out alongside that, I hear lots of organisations going, we think 3 days, we think 2 days, 4 days, we're just going to pluck a number out of thin air, or we're going to copy what the company next door are doing, without really any thought behind the why and the how and what that means. So again, like a huge thanks for that. And I want to finish on, you were reading that article from Apple just before we jumped on this live today. I just saw an article that another one of our Inspire community shared on LinkedIn about research that Google have been doing on, I'm just going to read it this word for word, what is the secret key to a great workplace environment? And it was to be nice. It doesn't cost anything. It's not complicated. It's absolutely free. But it was just being nice. And that really made me think very much to what you were saying about just inject some positive energy into the workplace. It doesn't cost anything, but it will make a huge difference. Thank you, Hattie. I haven't seen any other questions coming in. We had some initial comments, but if we have any questions, they will follow on from this. So again, a huge thank you for joining us today, Hattie. I really, really appreciate it. Tomorrow, you're very welcome. Tomorrow, same time, same place, we have a panel Q&A with not one, but two speakers joining us from the community, and the subject tomorrow is all around diversity, equality and inclusion. So be there. same time, same place. We'll see you tomorrow for day 4 of the summer series. Thanks, everyone. Bye.